True Taste of Canada, and proud sponsor of Canada's Olympic team in Seoul, Korea. And by Esso retailers and agents across Canada. Welcome to Exhibition Stadium in Toronto for Game 3 in the series between the Milwaukee Brewers and the Toronto Blue Jays. Milwaukee won Monday's opener 4-1. The Jays came back last night on a brilliant one-hitter by Dave Steve to beat the Brewers 9-0. Tonight, the rubber match. Mike Flanagan for Toronto and Mike Birkbeck pitching for Milwaukee. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes' time to talk to the #1 draft choice of the Toronto Blue Jays today, third baseman Ed Sprague. But right now, let's go up top to Don Chevrier and Tony Kubek.
And Fergie, as you well know, Milwaukee's a team that's given the Blue Jays fits the last few years. As a matter of fact, the Jays haven't beaten Milwaukee in a series. Well, it goes back to '86 since they've done that. So again, they look for the decisive win here in this series. Tony?
Well, the Yankees have already lost today, so the Blue Jays are just 11. Back in the lineup, George Bell next to the bat. Now, if only Flanagan and Clancy can get back on the beam and give them some consistency.
Only 4 complete games for the Blue Jays staff all year long. Stay with us on CTV.
Sixth in the conference opener at Southern California. Sprague stands 6'2" and weighs 200 pounds. He's a 20-year-old junior. He bats and throws right, was hitting 4th in tonight's lineup. He's reported in good health and has no known or apparent injuries. Sprague has been issued an OFP number of 46 by area scout Al Ronning. Once again, this is Ed Sprague, a third baseman for Stanford University.
Ed, were you surprised that the Blue Jays drafted you?
Yeah, I was. I hadn't talked to anybody from Toronto all year, and when I got the call this morning, I was a little shocked that they had picked me.
I know in talking to Pat Gillick, he was a little surprised that you were still available as the 25th player chosen in the draft. He thought you'd go a little higher.
Well, there's a lot of good players before me. I didn't set any expectations on the draft because I know it can be a real funny thing. So, when I got the call this morning, being drafted in the first round, it's a big surprise.
Ed, do you intend on signing with the Blue Jays?
Right now, it looks like, it's a good possibility.
Well, that's good news to hear. Are you going to play for the Olympic team?
Yeah, that's definitely my future plans. Hopefully that things will work out. I report to Millington on June 13th, and we have about a 2-month traveling squad, and then they cut down to about 20 people. So hopefully, that'll work out.
Well, Ed, we're happy to have you aboard. We hope you sign a contract with the Blue Jays, and we'll see you soon in Toronto at Exhibition Stadium, okay?
All right, thank you very much.
All right, Ed Sprague, the #1 draft choice of the Toronto Blue Jays today. You're watching Labatt's Blue Jays Baseball on CTV.
Well, a former Cy Young winner, Mike Flanagan, has a jinx team. It could be these Milwaukee Brewers. He is 0-1 against them this year, 1-3 against them last year, and 10-14 lifetime against Milwaukee. Here's a man working on his 150th win coming up very shortly, but against the Brewers, it's a little too tough for Mike to handle. Here's the lineup he'll face tonight, Tony.
Paul Molitor leads it off playing third base. Juan Castillo playing second base. Jimmy Gantner, a left-handed hitter, went home for the funeral of his father-in-law. Robin Yount in center field. He's been in that 3 spot over the last week and a half or so from the 2 spot. Rob Deere benched for a while back in left field, a strong right-handed hitter. Glenn Braggs, he's been on somewhat of a hot streak, then a left-handed bat. Greg Brock at first base, and a monster of a man, DH Joey Meyer. He's in the 7th slot, Bill Schroeder, and then the switch hitter, Dale Swayam, playing shortstop.
And here's the defense in support of starter Mike Flanagan for the Toronto Blue Jays. Bell, Mosby, and Barfield. Kelly Gruber at third. Fernandez, Nelson Mariano, Fred McGriff at first. Ernie Witt in his 1,000th game as a Blue Jay tonight, catching Mike Flanagan.
Mike struggling with his control a good part of this year, which has led to an awful lot of home runs over his last 4 or 5 starts. He's been trying to get by with an outstanding change in the fastball. His curveball is yet to come this year, and he worked on it long and hard in the bullpen, Don.
Yeah, I know he did. He had such a great finish to last season, second last day in Detroit. A marvelous outing, 11 innings for Flanagan. But this year, it's been a different story so far. But he gets an early ground ball from a tough hitter, Molitor, and Fernandez throws him out. Tony Fernandez certainly the key to the Blue Jays' comeback hopes this year.
Yesterday, perhaps ran as well as he has all year long. Look at the walks and the strikeouts even. He's thrown up 8 home runs already this year, Flanagan has. And a lot of it because his curveball has not been very effective this year. He's had trouble getting it over.
And he's ahead on this hitter, Juan Castillo, the second baseman. 1 strike count. Castillo's average a little misleading. He has not had that many at-bats. Gantner, who you talked about, home for a funeral, has swung a very hot bat recently for Milwaukee until his departure. And Flanagan's ahead 0-2 on Castillo with Robin Yount, the center fielder, on deck.
Brewers lineup, not an easy one for left-handed pitchers.
As Flanagan has discovered over the years. 1-2. Castillo, another player from San Pedro de Macorís in the Dominican Republic. Hit his first major league home run off this man, Mike Flanagan, who now goes 2-2 to him. Rob Deere in a horrendous slump, cleanup hitter. Gets in the number 4 spot. See if he can get things turned around against these Blue Jays tonight. But right now, Flanagan has fallen behind this hitter, the number 2 man, Castillo, with a full count.
One of Mike's trademarks in most of his career with the Baltimore Orioles was his outstanding control, especially outstanding control of the changeup and the curveball.
They set up the middle for Castillo. That is something Flanagan did not want to see happen for a number of reasons, one of which is the next hitter, Robin Yount, has a .418 lifetime average, 28 for 67 against Flanagan.
Fastball, he's going to say, here, you hit it. I don't want to walk you and put you on, which Flanagan, like a lot of good pitchers do, would rather have them hurt you with a base hit than a walk. Indication the way Robin hits Flanagan, he's a good low ball hitter, good off speed hitter because he goes to right center field so much.
Well, it's not just as the strike is taken by Robin Yount. Flanagan that he gangs up on. He's a lifetime .346 hitter with 15 homers against the Blue Jays.
If there's one thing a left-handed pitcher does against the Brewers, and Tom Trebelhorn, he's the manager, it's holds their running game down. He likes to start base runners. There he goes.
And the throw wrong side of the bag, Castillo has it stolen.
Well, Flanagan's so intent on getting Robin Yount and so intent on throwing strikes with his control problems so far this year, he gives Ernie Wood a very, very difficult pitch to throw on. Castillo, pretty much a straight steal, didn't look over his shoulder to pick up the ball off the bat. Ernie Reed didn't have a chance. He had to backhand the ball. Flanagan's delivery was somewhat slow.
He's trying to pitch him where the book says you should, and that's on the outside part of the plate to this hitter, Yount. And it's golfed. Here comes Barfield, can't get there in time. Short hop, he smothers it, makes the toss to the second base. There's first and third now with 1 out.
Tony Muser, the hitting instructor, his advice, and there's Dave Hilton, the first base coach, but on Tony Muser's advice, today the Brewers did not take batting practice. The field was covered, but they didn't even understand. It was a changeup, and there you see Robin Yount, who hits off-speed pitches so well, because he goes the opposite way. He waits that split second longer.
Well, we have Rob Deere, who had 28 home runs and drove in 80 last year for Milwaukee, but this past week is one that he would just as soon forget all about. 114 for an .071 average, the coldest hitter in the American League last week. That's ball 1 to Deere.
A couple of days ago, Rob Deere had a closed-door meeting for about 45 minutes with his manager, Tom Trebelhorn, trying to figure out why he's not playing. He said, you've got to stick with me. I know I strike out a lot, but I also produce runs, hit home runs. So kind of talked his way back in the lineup.
Yes, he does that. He struck out 365 times the last 2 years, but does hit the home runs.
And also what happened, Mike Felder, who had begun to hit and has outstanding speed, injured a leg. So he not only disabled it, but isn't running very well.
Rob had a homer fewer than every 17 at-bats last year. 2-0, but he lifts it high in the infield for Fred McGriff. Now wandering in foul territory. That's the second out of the inning.
It's going to be a very, very tricky wind today.
Sure is.
Wind blowing from left out to right and very brisk. There might be some tricks played on pop-ups.
Brisk, unpredictable, and therefore unmanageable to win here at Exhibition Stadium, more so than usual.
What's that mean? It's coming out of the northwest. I guess that cold front is hit. A big pitch by Flanagan. He just got a fastball by Deere to pop him up. He was looking sacrifice fly and couldn't drive the fastball deeply enough to the outfield.
Yeah, this time yesterday, it was 30 degrees Celsius, mid-80s Fahrenheit, and that cold front's appearance has driven it down to, well, appreciably lower than that. Certainly about 60 degrees right now to 64, it would feel like.
This kid is a very strong hitter and likes the ball down. That's the pitch Flanagan has been searching for all year long, and he had a good one in spring training when he pitched in a lot of those cold days. That field pitch, that overhand curveball, he just hasn't been able to corral it.
Well, Braggs, who was rated the top prospect of the Coast League after the '86 season, he has not quite developed as they would have liked. He had the 7th highest rate of grounding and double plays last year. But still, enormous potential. He's got a 1-1 count to him. They're at first and third, 2 gone. 1 and 2 as Flanagan took something off and fooled the hitter Braggs.
Early in Flanagan's career, when he threw the ball 90 miles an hour, he was pretty much a power pitcher. Threw some sliders. He felt that may have damaged his elbow. Does not throw a slider anymore. Then he became a change-up breaking ball pitcher. Learned to change up from Scotty McGregor, his teammate with the Orioles.
He'll check at first base on the runner there, Robin Yount. Castillo's over at third. A couple of base hits and a stolen base. Flanagan's undoing in this inning. He stays alive.
Mike Flanagan on that last pitch, first and third, is flirting with a balk call. He did come to a stop, whatever discernible stop means, with both feet on the ground, which is the way the rule reads now. But he is close. You get some umpires who have a slow 1001 call, and they might have called a balk on that last one.
A tree stop this time. That is driven to Liriano on the hop. He gets it across to Freddie McGriff, and the inning is over as Milwaukee, with a couple of base hits and a stolen base, strand 2. So Flanagan gets out of a tough spot. You're watching Labatt's Blue Jays baseball on CTV. Mike Birkbeck makes his second appearance against the Blue Jays. He beat them 7-1. He went 6 2/3 of the 22nd of May, giving up just 3 hits over in Milwaukee. So the Jays have already been frustrated by this guy. There's a lineup: Tony Fernandez, then Mosby and Mullenix in this inning for sure. George Bell bats cleanup. Fred McGriff's at first base. He continues his hot spring. Kelly Gruber at third. Ernie Witt's catching. Jesse Barfield's back and right, and Nelson Liriano, the switch hitting second baseman, hits 9.
Robin Yount in center field has made the transition from shortstop, throwing better after a couple of times arm surgery. I know Bobby Maddock is in the ballpark today with all the other scouts from the free agent draft. And he always used to talk about DiMaggio when he saw him play. Never made a mistake. And I'm not comparing Yount to DiMaggio, but Yount never makes a mistake. He's one of those players. Came up as an 18-year-old. Bases, out defensively. He just does everything a ball player is supposed to do.
In that regard, you can compare them.
I guess.
Tony Fernandez hitting .268. 1-1 count to him. Drives it. Gap. Cut off by the right fielder, Braggs. That'll hold Tony to a single.
Most important man in this ball club. Just got a base hit to right field. He's like Paul Molitor. They call him the igniter. When Molitor gets on base, the offense for the Brewers works. And when Tony gets on base and can run, look at the head behind the ball. Watched it right to hit the bat. Good arm extension through the ball. And he's a running threat now.
Again. As he was last year until injuries took him down.
And then he moved to the number 3 spot before he got hurt, and he wasn't running much at the end because he was hitting in front of George Bell.
He's at first base for Mosby, who takes ball 1.
Birkbeck's best pitch is his curveball. Ironically, his last outing when he won 7-1, he rarely threw it because they weren't catching up to his fastball. Doesn't throw real hard, but I believe the Jays were looking for his curveball in Milwaukee.
It was the beginning of the end of the perfect weekend for the Jays, who'd taken 2, and then he shut them down 7-1. Brewers got a split. The teams are even on the year. 2-0 to Mosby, who has 2 hits in his last 15 at-bats.
Now you've got a running count. 2-0. You want your hitter, Mosby in that case, to try and look for his pitch and take it deep. Now that it's 2-1, you can break up the infield by starting Fernandez. Jimmy Williams might do it. False start.
Yep.
Tony started and then decided not to. Something in Birkbeck's delivery made Tony hold up.
Pitch was high for 3-1. John Shulock is calling balls and strikes. Mark Johnson, Jim McKean, and Mike Riley work around the base paths.
Birkbeck questioned the call very mildly to Shulock. Umpires are testy. Shulock he's a very confident, some say arrogant umpire, and you don't say much to him. He's a good one, though. There he goes.
Mosby walks. Tony could slow it right down. He slipped to second base. They're at first and second. Nobody out for Rance Mullinax. Remind you, this telecast is presented by authority of the Blue Jays Baseball Club. It may not be rebroadcast in any form without the express written consent of the Toronto Blue Jays Baseball Club. I tell you, working in these windy conditions here, you got to forget what your mother told you about no elbows on the table. Because if you don't have them there in the desk, everything blows every which way.
You betcha. Blue Jays offense has been pretty good so far this year, inconsistent, but they're third in the league in runs scored. And they seem to be getting the offense to gel more and more with Tony swinging the bat better, Barfield back. Of course, against right-handers, they don't have much of a problem with Mullen sitting in the 3 slot.
And he is the first of a trio of 300-plus hitters for the Blue Jays. He's hitting 301. Bell behind him, 313. McGriff right after him at 336. So with 2 on, nobody out, the Jays have got something working here in the first. The 1-0 is driven to left field. It's fading, though, toward the line, and it's going to wind up as a foul ball. But he got a rise, Rance did, out of this crowd until that ball finally dropped in foul territory.
If there's a smarter hitter in the major leagues, I'd like to know who it is if it isn't Rance Mullins. When he's looking for a pitch away, a tailing fastball, he'll drive it the opposite way. When he's looking inside, he can pull it when he wants to. And he can be very selective up until 2 strikes. Look for a pitch and wait for it till he gets it. Some hitters can't do that. Looking for a certain pitch, you get something else, they still swing at and make an out.
Most hitters can't do that. 1-1 to Mullinax, who's got 5 hits his last 10 times at the plate. Takes that inside. It's 2-1. So the Blue Jays' long struggle to catch the upper echelon of this division, the Yankees and Cleveland, continues. They started the day 12 games back, but did get a bit of a break earlier. The Yankees getting into trouble again in Oakland. But a tough series for them out there.
So Billy Martin used Rich Dotson in relief today. He's been doing that quite a bit.
Oakland still
Candelaria. Dennis Eckersley got his 17th save for the Oakland A's out of 18 possible save situations. He is red hot.
Mark McGwire drove in the winning run in the 8th inning. Seattle beat Baltimore, as you see. Mullinax fouls it off his foot and hops in the batter's box.
I wonder how much Billy Martin's going to get for his latest incident of throwing dirt after the Scott call. The umpire blew the call. Replay showed it. Billy threw dirt, kicked dirt. I believe this will lead to a suspension this time.
Well, Billy will tell him, the league president, when he gets his chance to, that, sir, I really wanted just to keep on kicking, which apparently is okay. It's a mild offense. But it was wet, you see, and I couldn't make it fly, so I had to bend over and pick it up and throw it at him. Otherwise, I would have kept on kicking.
You tell the league president and his former teammate, Dr. Bobby Brown, what are you saying? There he goes.
Heard all before, driven to center field. Here comes Tony Fernandez, who stopped at third. Not sure if how hard that was hit or where it was, but he scores easily. 1-0 Toronto.
Now, when you got a guy with great bat control like Mullinax, you start the runners. You don't fear a strikeout, and you get a run on a hard hit ball to center field. And more than that, Lloyd, because both runners are on the move, goes from first to third. If he's not on the move, he's not going to go to third base on this one. And that puts more pressure on the defense. Here comes a trip from Chuck Hartenstein. Well, if Molitor tried to decoy Tony Fernandez, or if he just lost his footing.
No, he paused there, certainly, as you saw. Hartenstein now with words for his struggling young starter, Mike Birkbeck.
They got a few people in the Brewers uniform used to be in Blue Jays uniform. Hartenstein, the minor league pitching coach in Mirabella. Tom Filer, who's 2-0, was player of the week.
What a comeback story he is.
Tony was on the move, and he wasn't sure, kind of got offline, untracked, wasn't sure whether or not that ball was going to be caught on the line. He hesitated a moment and then had a retract, but he had a lot of time to get home.
Looked like when he hit the dirt there, off the turf, he might have slipped a little bit. Looking a little awkward going around third base, but scoring nonetheless. Here's George Bell. He lifts that into left field. That's going to bring Mosby home. 2-0 Toronto. Still nobody out.
It's like a replay of yesterday's first inning, isn't it? Ernie Witt base hit. McGriff. George Bell base hit. They say hitting is contagious. Well, if you were here last night and you see the start of this game, you would probably agree. George had outstanding at-bats in the game last night. Cito Gaston yesterday had George Bell in batting practice hitting the right field. He felt he was pulling the ball too much and too far out in front of off-speed pitches. So Cito's made a point.
Here's Fred McGriff. He takes strike one. In his last 24 times at bat, McGriff has 9 hits and 5 bases on balls. And as you know, if you're a regular Blue Jay viewer, he will take the walk. Very patient young hitter. 1-1 to him now, and of course activity starts in the Milwaukee pen.
Paul Mirabella, former Blue Jay, former, I guess about everything. He just keeps battling his way back, folks. Yeah. I mean, he's goes to the minor leagues. I don't know how many times he was up and down with the Brewers last year. Left-handers are tough to come by. Just ask Boston in their bullpen. California.
Yeah.
Houston.
And they talk about expansion. That's back on the front burner again at the league, well, both leagues meeting in San Francisco.
One of the big things on the agenda in San Francisco is going to be the umpire situation, from what I hear. A rating system, somebody to evaluate them so that if they have a couple of bad weeks, they can be sent to the minors like a player. Never touched it.
Nope.
It'll be a pass ball, I believe, on Schroeder.
They both move up. Bonnex to third, Bell to second, both in scoring position now for McGriff. It's the last thing Schroeder and his pitcher Birkbeck wanted.
Curveball that just really rolled and just goes off the webbing. I don't know if he took his eyes off it or if he's fooled by the check swing, but it's creates a further problem for Birkbeck.
Fastball to the catcher, and he had to block that one too. It's holding it 3-2 now, full count to Fred McGriff. Freddie fouls it off, staying alive at 3-2.
Birkbeck's season last year, one of the very promising young starting pitchers for the Brewers. He had some shoulder problems, missed a good part of the season, still trying to regain the strength, and he's been, as you said, rained out how many times, and the starters have missed 4 or 5 times this year. He's pitching in a tough situation.
McGriff takes another one. He drops down to first base. Bases loaded, nobody out. Mike Birkbeck right now pitching more like Irma Bombeck.
You know, the thing you've got true wall. The thing you've got to really respect about Freddie McGriff is that he's a young hitter who does not get over anxious. He could have hacked away and tried for a long fly ball. You'll take the walk and load him up. He's a very disciplined hitter against right-handed pitchers.
Ernie Witt will be up after Gruber.
Whoa.
As they get the one at first base. Well, the run crosses.
They were playing back. Molitor was in a little bit. If the ball had been hit directly at him, he might have come home. But then Paulie, and he's had some elbow problems. He has a play at Freddie McGriff's in second base. He could have taken the force out, and he never looked. Freddie McGriff goes in. He was about 2/3 of the way. You can see with Freddie is the ball's in the first baseman's glove, and Freddie was not yet at third base. So Molitor really made a little bit of a mistake, not getting the lead runner. Now, double play situation is not there.
Yep, they're at second and third.
You don't see Molitor make those kinds of mistakes. He's been a DH at times this year. Talked about second base because of his elbow and shoulder problems.
And here's Ernie, who'd love to celebrate his 1,000th game as a Blue Jay by driving in a run or two here. He takes strike one. He played just a few games for the Boston Red Sox and was playing by the Jays in the expansion draft. And as you know, he and Clancy are the only 2 originals who survive here with this team.
one of those nice situations for a hitter to be up in. Not an overpowering kind of pitcher, but at the corners they're in, but any ground ball up the middle, unless it's at the pitcher, they're just conceding the run. You can see where Swaim and Castillo are playing. So all I want to do is hit a ground ball or a long fly ball, so I've got two possibilities to get an RBI.
2 strikes to Ernie. And that'll go out of play. Blue Jays, after this game tonight, will fly to Boston. They will start a 4-game series against the Red Sox at Fenway Park. Tomorrow night, we'll have a Sunday game for you on CTV at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Check for the time in your area. The Blue Jays go in to meet a Boston team that has nobody, 0 on the disabled list. A far cry from Toronto's situation.
Well, Greenwell's having a little problem. He flew back from the West Coast, and they haven't disabled him, yes, but he's hurting.
He's an exception there. Slow roller.
Yes.
Got to really hurry on this play to get it across to the pitcher. They get with, but the 4th run scores. Bell brings it home. 4-0 Toronto.
When things are going right, as they did last night, and apparently, well, they are obviously today, you bleed balls, you get ground ball by Gruber. He drives a runner without a base hit. Now Ernie weakly taps one. Not hit hard enough for Brock to throw home and get the runner. It's a crazy thing, and things have been going so wrong for this team for almost 2 months.
Everything seems compounded. You're right. 1-0 to Jesse Barfield. Brought back yesterday from 15 days on the disabled list. A place he didn't feel he ever should have been. 1-1. Juan Benitez released by the Blue Jays to make room for Barfield's return, and he left very unhappy.
With a few parting blasts, the front office and Jimmy Williams and all else.
He can go out smiling or growling. He chose the latter. Still will be paid for the year, and the Dodgers apparently want to look at him. They want a right-handed bat. 2-1 is the count to Barfield. Jesse's home run woes continue, and of course were a problem before he was sidelined with his latest injury. Just 3 of them dating back to September 13th of last year. Short hop, third base, long throw off the bag. He's safe at first.
Jesse's down.
Barfield tumbles as he goes over the bag, and they look at him.
He tried to avoid the possibility of Brock on the errant throw by Molitor, so he'll be given an error. And when he tried to kind of avoid the throw, so Paul Molitor maybe still having trouble with his throwing arm. He gets an in-between hop as Freddie comes home, then throws it into the runner. Jesse tried to duck it, may have either tripped on Brock's leg or tripped over the bag on that last lunge. Apparently all right.
Well, either it's his
chalk up another run.
Throwing arm or just anxiety here and hurrying a little bit too much, having bobbled it.
It's one of the reasons this spring they were talking about Molitor becoming a second baseman and moving Gantner to third. Because he has had the elbow surgery, then he had some shoulder problems. I do not think they're giving Jesse a hit. We do not have the official scoring decision yet. I think it's going to be an error as Tommy Craig and Jimmy Williams lead.
Well, you would think so, because the throw pulled the first baseman off the bag, and it looked like it might have been there to get him had that throw not been up, and indeed it has been scored as an error against the third baseman.
That Brock, by getting off the bag and holding it, saved Molitor a possible 2-error situation. One for missing the ball and another for throwing it wild if Barfield advanced, so he'll only get 1 E on that.
So Jesse is all right. He's at first base for Nelson Laureano. And the pitch is high to him. Although don't get too worked up over Nelson maybe taking a base on balls here, because he's among the top 3 in the American League as the toughest to walk. Just 3 bases on balls this year, but Pat Borders heads the parade with only 1. He strokes it down to the second baseman. Castillo up with it. He'll toss out Nelson, and that'll be the inning. But a good one for the Blue Jays. They stake Mike Flanagan, who was in trouble himself, to a 4-run lead. Make it 5 now. No, check it. It is 4 on Labatt's Blue Jays baseball on CTV. Back with you at Exhibition Stadium, and to set the scoring straight, yes, it is 5 for the Blue Jays. The first 5 hitters, Fernandez, Mosby, Mullenix, Bell, and McGriff, all scored. And Flanagan now has got that much to work with here as he faces the Brewers in the second. Brock, Meyer, and shorter schedule.
For the Brewers, the first
What? The makings of a laughter 2 consecutive days. The Jays haven't won 2 in a row since they had that 5-game winning streak back April 17th. So inconsistent they've been.
When they do win 2 in a row, it's not very frequent when it happens, but it's not blowouts like this one might be, and the one last night was. 14 straight runs now. They've outscored Milwaukee the last 2 nights. As Brock waves at it, takes strike 1 from Flanagan.
Flanagan will obviously just try and throw strikes, make a good quality pitch on his first pitch and get it to the hitter, just like Steve did last night. Steve was incredibly awesome last night, to say the least. He said it's the best game he's ever pitched. B.J. Suroff got the only base that didn't walk anybody. Al Woodmar would have been proud. Al had some surgery on the neck, doing okay in a hospital in Tulsa.
He'll be back after the All-Star break, but was very pleased to hear the news.
Galen Cisco, who's with the glasses between Cito and John McLaren, was the pitching coach at San Diego, Montreal. He's one of the best.
And he's sitting in now while Al is recuperating. Down the line, fair ball as Brock is on his way to second base. Bell has trouble with it. And Brock will try for 3. Bell still can't find the baseball.
Well, it was going to be a double anyway, but when George couldn't pick it up after it took a funny hop, hit something down in the bullpen area, so perhaps now they'll give George a double and an error for allowing the runner Brock to go from second to third. One time they looked at Brock with the Dodgers as simply a platoon player. He couldn't hit left-handers, but he's learned to go the opposite way. Hits the water cooler, the Gatorade cooler, whatever that is there, and then when George couldn't pick it up, Brock, who'd had a double, couldn't go. He went from second to third, and I'm sure it'll be a hit and an error.
Yeah, Bell in his haste was running it as you saw. As you said, the logical scoring, 2-base hit and advanced to third base on the error to Bell. Here's Joey Meyer.
Was it a full moon yesterday, or is it again today?
Well, it's still pretty full, I guess.
What's happening so far in this game?
Blue moon or a full moon.
Yeah.
And Big Meyer, we are talking big, golfs it out of play. Fergie?
Well, I know that Tony probably won't tell us, but I've got to ask him. You spoke to Al Widmar today, Tony. What do you have to say?
It's incredible. He was up and walking around. Jimmy Williams spoke to him. Then John McLaren spoke to him. He had a litany of calls, to say the least.
Here is Gruber as he looks Brock to the plate, scoring easily, getting Joey Meyer.
Al said he got his wife out of the hospital, Betty, took her home. She's doing fine, turned around, drove back to Mount Sinai Hospital in Tulsa, himself with the neck surgery, 2 discs removed.
He said, what, you here again?
Up and walking around this morning. He's a remarkable person.
Bill Schroeder, the catcher. Down and into him from Flanagan. He's not exactly breezed here, giving up back-to-back singles to Castillo and Yap in the first inning, and then bearing down to Strand there. Brock with a double here to lead it off, scores, and now Schroeder keeps it alive with a 1-out single to left field, left center field.
Change-up. Tony Fernandez, when he saw the change-up sign, was leaning to his right, took one quick step to his right, and the ball was hit too hard for him to recover and go to his left. Tony playing the pitch, the hitter, the situation, and leaning to the shortstop hole.
Well, you talk about draft choices being made today at the first round. You learned about the Blue Jays' first selection a while ago. Dale Sveum was a first-round pick in June of '82. Turned on a football-baseball scholarship at Arizona State to sign with the Milwaukee Brewers.
He was a quarterback. He's had a lot of trouble with his shoulders. One shoulder dislocates on him all the time. Comes out of the socket. It's painful. He's trouble throwing at times. He's made a lot of errors. He's made, I think, 16 errors already with a quarter of the season gone at shortstop.
Well, he was an outstanding defensive player in the minor leagues, but he had 30 errors in '86, 23 last year. He's got a strong arm. His range is okay. He just made a lot of mistakes.
He drives and runs, though.
Sure does. Power, too, but right now is served up a double play. That'll do it to get Flanagan off the hook again here in the second inning. 2 hits, but just a run for the Milwaukee Brewers. 5-1 ball game in the Bats Blue Jays baseball on CTV. Well, the Blue Jays, who hit around, scoring 5 runs on 3 hits in the first inning, will start from the top of the order here in the second. Tony Fernandez, Lloyd Mosby, and Rance Mulliniks. 5-1, Toronto leads the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, Birkbeck with control problems in the bottom of the first, walked a couple, and then defensive support that collapsed. Molitor with a couple of off plays for him.
You just never know what to expect of this game from start to start. We talked about Birkbeck as you look at Fernandez and his very impressive work against the Blue Jays last time out. A 7-1 winner, checked them on just 3 hits. He equaled that, gave up far more runs in the first inning alone. Fernandez down to Brock, who will make the play unassisted. 1 gone.
Birkbeck throwing right now what Blue Jay scout Moose Johnson calls the hitter's comfort zone. That nice fastball.
Center fielder, number 15,
right around 3, 4, 5 miles an hour. You just sit on it and wait and wail away.
He really has been serving it up. Yet part of his problem, control in the first inning too. 3 hits and 2 walks, the contributing factors, along with an error. Mosby with a 1-0 count. He walked and scored in the first. He takes strike 1. Last time we saw Lloyd, he was hurting in Texas after a superb effort the night before. Looks to be in fine fettle once again. That is inside on the eyes of John Shulock, the plate umpire. It's 2-1.
I just wonder when, again, another article in one of the Toronto papers with Ball and Mosby still wailing that it was a mistake to change the outfield in spring training. How long will they wail about that? Isn't it over with by now? They're back in their own positions. It's almost the beginning of the year, and they're still talking how that disrupted the Blue Jays and the chemistry on the ball club way back in March.
Well, it might have been, but they should put it behind them now.
Well,
You're right.
So. All the blaming and guilt and Williams. Why don't the players just say, you know, we're not playing so hot either sometimes. I mean,
We're not making
I never heard a guy
right
say
moves.
that. I guess their agents will let them say that sometimes. Wow.
Sometimes they have trouble stopping them from saying things, the agents do. Convention out there, and Molitor makes the play to get Mosby 2 gone. So a tame second inning so far for Birkbeck. Boston Red Sox be coming in. I mentioned the Jays go to Fenway this weekend.
Designated hitter,
10th of June, 7:35 start time for the first game. Red Sox a contender, but starting to do a little fading act right now for a good start.
Well, they're not hitting any home runs. Can you believe that ball club last in the American League in home runs hit? Almost last in slugging. I mean, they don't hit any home runs anymore in Fenway Park.
And for a change, John McNamara, a manager who has been besieged with injuries both in California and Boston the last number of years, hasn't got that problem. But the report is, unless they're definite contenders by July the 1st, McNamara could be searching for employment. Pitch is high to Mullenix. It is 3-0. Of course, Lou Piniella could be on the managerial market again, having given up his GM post with the Yankees. High, and Mullenix takes a 2-out walk.
If you're overpowering like Roger Clemens or some of the other flamethrowers, Langston, you can get away with walks in a little ballpark like this. If you are a Birkbeck who doesn't throw very hard with the wind blowing out an artificial surface, came back to hunt him in the first inning and may again.
You mentioned Clemens. The Blue Jays will likely see him in Boston, the last man they want to see. He has 7 shutouts in his last 13 starts. 0-1 to Bell. A ball and a strike to George now, who had his 26th RBI in the first inning.
Roger Clemens, ERA 1.82. Dave Steves moved up to 2.63 as today after his brilliant shutout yesterday.
Has Corey Snyder faced Clemens this year? I know coming in he had struck out all 9 times he had appeared against him.
I'm not sure. Boston clearly played such a crazy schedule. I mean, I think that Toronto still hadn't played Baltimore in their division, waiting to play Cleveland.
Be almost all-star time before they do play Baltimore, that is. End of June.
Cleveland, they beat Baltimore 7 times, so they feasted on them early. And Cleveland's going to have to start playing a lot of the Eastern Division ball club and see if that depth in their pitching staff can hold up. Middle long relief, short relief. Their start has been going a long way. They could come back with Toronto in a hurry.
Question is, can Toronto continue the kind of run production we're seeing the last couple of nights and move up where they were supposed to be all along? Blue Jays, against a much improved Western Division in general, certainly Oakland has shown that, are just 16 and 22, and that's where they expected to get a good jump against the West before they faced the bulk of the East the rest of the way. It is hit foul left side, so it's holding in 1 and 2 for Bell.
Well, today's the day that Pete Rose is back after his 30-day suspension, but it looks like Pete was on the short end. Cubs 1, Cincinnati nothing. Final score. Cubs are getting some good pitching. They nip her out and Sutcliffe up. They're throwing all those kids. Moyer, Maddox, Lancaster. Jeff Pico, his first major league start, a shutout yesterday.
You talk about not putting things like spring training behind you after 30 days. Pete still couldn't put the suspension behind him. He still, as he came back to work today, said it was far too tough, far too stiff.
I think he's right. He paid Guerrero for throwing the bat 4 days and a $1,000 fine. 30 days is a lot.
Well, Pedro only got 4 days because his aim wasn't so good.
Wind will kill that baby.
It sure will. Coming on from left field is Deere to collect it. Bell is gone, so are the Blue Jays, stranding Mullenix at first base. 5-1 it is, and Labatt's Blue Jays baseball on CTV.
You can listen to the Blue Jays home and away on CJCL 1430 in Toronto.
Tony Muser, third base coach. Davey Hilton at first base for Tom Trebelhorn.
Will describe all the action on the Telemedia Sports Network.
Well, it hasn't exactly been a walk in the park for Mike Flanagan, but he does have a 5-1 lead over the Milwaukee Brewers here this evening. Shaky first inning, little nervousness in the second, and the Brewers got their only run. A double by Brock, reaching third on error by Bell. Driven home on an infield ground out by Joy Meyer. And he will first face the igniter here, Paul Molitor. Then Juan Castillo and Robin Yount in Milwaukee third. You could forget Molitor's dramatic 39-game hit streak last year. The longest since Joe DiMaggio's 56-gamer way back in 1941.
And the man that got a base hit to win a ball game in the 10th with Molitor on deck got released and got booed by the hometown fans. Rick Manning.
Yeah.
Win a ball game and you get booed, huh? For not letting Molitor get that last at bat.
The end of the game just ahead of him with the hitting streak in the on-deck circle. The longest hitting streak in the American League, I should clarify, since DiMaggio. The longest hitting streak since Pete Rose's 44-gamer back in '78 over the National League. Molitor's a versatile athlete. He stole third base 10 times last year. That's Ricky Henderson stuff. The most in the American League was not thrown out.
At one time, he was considered a better shortstop than Robin Yount. Robin came along as a kid. Molitor out of the University of Minnesota. Made Molly a third baseman. Oh, beautiful bunt.
Oh, forget
let it roll. It's the only chance he's got.
It goes foul. It does.
What you call knowing your home field, isn't it? With a little bit of a slope on the turf. Ordinarily, turf fields don't have any slope for water drainage. They're usually flat as a pool table, but
not this one.
Kelly Gruber, who didn't have a chance to throw him out, Ernie would probably say, let it go, and they do, and there it goes.
Right on schedule. Day in baseball, that long streak began. Lou Gehrig out of Columbia.
Two stories. Some say Wally Pipp had a headache, asked out. Some say he was late to the ballpark because he was betting on one of his racehorses. Regardless, he didn't get back in, did he?
No, it was a pinch hit effort, actually, for Pee Wee Waninger in the 8th inning. That started the streak. Yankees lost to the Senators 5-3 that day. Wally Pipp, I guess that replacement came the next day.
Still a term much used. You get out of the lineup for hanging or anything else, they call you Wally Pipp. You'll never get back. Whoops. Good curveball, but he's going to be on first base. It's by Ernie. It'll be a strikeout, and assuming they're going to give a wild pitch to Mike Flanagan.
That's how it should read. Let's see.
There was a curve or if it was a change.
The second baseman, number 3,
ball-like effect. Ernie couldn't smother it.
Well, you hate to have that happen, especially when you get the speed of Molitor, leadoff runner at first base, and get your first strikeout. Don't get it out. Here's Juan Castillo. He singled and stole second base. You must respect Molitor. He stole 3 bases in 1 inning last year. One and one to Castillo. And confirming the scoring on that
Wild pitch,
last
Don.
at bat. Yeah, it's a strikeout and a wild pitch.
They looked at several replays, and the official scorer, Roy Lefebvre, called it a wild pitch. Did I have my French right?
On Roy, you did.
Yeah, Roy.
Here's the 1-1, and it's inside and downstairs.
Lefebvre or Lefebvre?
Lefebvre, Roy Lefebvre.
Good for you, Chevrolet.
I think you better stick to first names. Unless there's Jean-Paul. 2-1.
You got a nice lead with 4 runs, and you got a left-hander out there, and kind of takes away a little of the game plan of Tom Treblehorn, who likes to start runners. And this would be a good running count in most instances.
Especially with this man, but
2.
they don't start him, and it could cost them a double play. It does.
Flanagan is a very, very comfortable pitcher to pitch behind. He has been likened to Whitey Ford with the control in the prime of his career, that you can play him a certain way, and if they hit the ball hard, it hit right to where you're playing, and that's what happened. Tony Fernandez playing up the middle a little bit, fastball away, ground ball, double play, 6-4-3.
Could use that video for a clinic.
When he's got his control, Flanagan, that's been a problem for him this year. He's just great because he's got a good, quick rhythm. He's near the strike zone. You know they're going to put the ball in play. He usually make the opposition hit it where he wants to.
Robin Yount, who singled to the first inning. He's now hit in 16 of the last 20 Milwaukee games. And 21 of the last 26. So the old Yount consistency remains with him.
Somebody went to Robin the other day, said, look, if you play till you're 42 and average the numbers of hits about 187 yards now, you'll break Pete Rose's record of 4,000 whatever
all it takes, huh?
base hits. And he said, I'm not going to be around for 12 more years. Been around forever, but remember, he came up as an 18-year-old.
He's a baby.
Late Harvey Keene was his tutor with a bat. That's HK on the left shoulders with the bat, in tribute to the late Harvey Keene. Al Widmar, perhaps his best friend, or one of them. Keene pampered his hitting stroke, pampered his shortstop play, and made a great player.
He doesn't burn Flanagan this time, as he has over his career. Yount goes quietly, as do the Brewers, after getting a bit of a break on the first man at bat. Paul Molitor, 5-1, Blue Jays lead. And Labatt's Blue Jays baseball and CTV.
146, 135. That's the Jays and the Tigers starting Friday, June.
Mike Flanagan with Winston Jenis of the Dominican Republic, and with the glasses,
First baseman, number 19.
Galen Cisco. And Galen was talking. He said, I don't think I'll ever fill the shoes of Al Widmar. I've seen some of these pitchers, but all I can do is watch tapes of them, try and pick up a mechanical flaw, trying to help them with the pitchers, hitters charts, how to pitch them. He's quite an athlete. Ohio State, played for Woody Hayes, was in a Rose Bowl champion. Galen Cisco, fullback.
Here's Fred McGriff, walked and scored first inning. Blue Jays lead Milwaukee 5-1. Like them last night, 9-0. One hitter by Steve, right back to Brookbeck. And that'll take care of Fred McGriff. One out on the Blue Jays third.
Can you imagine how scary it is? That ball wasn't hit particularly hard. How scary it is to have about a 6'3" or 4 guy that weighs 220 and has the kind of swing that Freddie does, where he leverages the ball so hard to have the ball come right back at you about 55 feet away. Wow.
And then if he's like Winfield, who's got a habit of letting the bat fly out of his hands frequently, it's a double cause for concern. Kelly Gruber swings to the first pitch as Birkbeck shows signs of settling down finally after a very rough beginning tonight.
I think there was an interesting thing with the Yankees yesterday. Al Leiter started the ball game. The first hitter lined the ball back. Leiter had to leave. Neil Allen came in the ball game. and finished the game, pitched a shutout for the Yankees. Everybody was wondering, was it considered a complete game? They ruled it a complete game because Leiter had not retired a hitter. They went all the way back to Ruth when he started the game, pitched the one-hitter, got thrown out by the umpire. The pitcher replaced him, pitched a no-hitter, and they said, yep, it's a complete game.
1-2 to Gruber.
The Yankees having trouble. Leiter, don't know how long he'll be gone. Guidry back down the disabled list. Roden still with a back problem. Some say that Candelaria has a little shoulder problem.
Yeah, when it goes on the Yankees, it goes in a hurry, doesn't it?
Righetti, although he's pitched more effectively, some say he's still not throwing the ball real hard. And you got Mattingly out too, and you create yourself a lot of problems.
Yeah, Mattingly's out for 15 days. Up the middle, base hit. Gruber, one-out single. That'll bring up catcher Ernie Witt. And our fan phone vote is brought to you by Xerox Canada. Question being, should Billy Martin be suspended for throwing dirt at the umpire in Oakland on Monday night? Again, he couldn't kick it and get the effect, so he picked it up and he threw it. And he'll be out the carpet for that. Should they suspend him, given all the suspensions recently? There are the yay and nay numbers. It'll cost you 50 cents.
Yeah, what a circus that is, huh? Sparky Lyle was right when he wrote the book, The Bronx Zoo. It's a zoo again. Does that mean that Lou was resigned as general manager? If Billy gets suspended, that Lou becomes the manager? Or what happens? Or does Cleat become the manager?
Cleat filled in the other night. Here's the toss to second. Diving under it safely is Kelly Gruber.
Shorter's had arm problems for a long time. Kelly doesn't get a particularly good jump. He has better than average speed. He has some agility and quickness, and that head-first slide, a lot of people are trying to stop their players from sliding head first. Keith Miller of the Mets keeps jamming his shoulder. They're trying to get him to stop. Yount hurt his shoulder doing that, diving in the bases.
You can sure see why.
And some people think it's faster, but a lot of people feel that when you dive and you hit the dirt path, the dirt builds up in your belt area, or what used to be the belt, and you slow down faster. So, and if
well,
the
yeah,
ball gets,
you've seen them bounce in. That's
yeah,
right.
If the ball gets by the middle infielder, you can't pop up like you do with a pop-up slide feet first and go to the next base. So there might be some pluses to the head-first slide, but there are more minuses, I think.
3-0 to Ernie Witt, the stolen base, the 4th and 5 attempts this year by Gruber. He's at second now with one out. 5-1 Blue Jays lead as the darkness descends upon Exhibition Stadium.
He likes it. He's going to swing.
And he does. Second baseman.
That jam.
Castillo takes care of Witt. Over to third goes Gruber with 2 out now.
It's one of those cases where the pitch looks so fat to Ernie Witt, 3-0. It was up, looked like it was in, a pitch he could pull, and he perhaps over swung and jammed himself. Looks too fat to him.
Yep, too fat, too juicy. And it became a very easy out.
And of course, first base was open, and they were going to try and pitch him off the plate in, and they did. They would have taken their chances with Jesse.
So Ernie now just one hit in his last 15 at-bats, and here is Barfield reaching on an error to the third baseman, Molitor, in the first inning, and then stumbling as he hit first base, but is all right. 1-0 to it.
It's interesting how alert players, Juan Castillo, after with a man on third base, and middle infielders are trained to do this. When the ball comes back from the catcher to the pitcher, time is out. One of the middle infielders will always back up, and rarely do you see a catcher overthrow a pitcher. But you're trained to back it up in case it happens. I mean, if a catcher's got a mental block, like some have, Dale Murphy, Mike Ivey, there have been others, they can't throw it back, they can flip the ball to center field. Watch Castillo.
1-1 is the count.
Harvey Keene.
As you referred earlier, there is in memory of the late Milwaukee manager. Two balls and a strike to Barfield. Is he hitting just .219 now? 3-1. Birkbeck has battled for control pretty consistently all night. He walked 2 in the first inning. He walked 1 in the second inning. In danger of putting Barfield on here with a green light, I'm sure. And off the end of the bat it goes. And he will become an easy out for Castillo to Brock.
Jesse over anxious. They weren't going to throw him a strike like they weren't to Ernie. He got burned.
5-1 after 3. Tony coming right up in the Bats Blue Jays baseball and CTV.
Including the recently released Blue Jays yearbook.
Hi, I'm Claudia Cerruti, inviting you to join John and the Blue Jays pitching staff in their effort to strike out colitis and Crohn's disease. For more information, please call your local CFIC office.
Well, the funds for that outstanding charity continue to mount, and it's nice to see the wives are as involved as the husbands. Fourth inning, Rob Deere, Glenn Braggs, Greg Brock, Mike Flanagan, not walked a Brewer hitter yet. He has struck out 1. They've gotten 4 base hits off him. Jays lead it 5-1. Backdoor breaking ball. John Shulak pops out the right arm. Strike 1. Flanagan tried to stay right out there again with a breaking ball, but the ball didn't turn over. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Rob Deere has got half a dozen home runs this year, 28 last year, although he strikes out a lot. Again, the first player to hit grand slams in consecutive games since Greg Luzinski in '84.
A different kind of fastball from the Flanagan of old. This fastball has a little tail, a little dive to it. Not quite a sinker. Occasionally, when he goes with the seams, he'll have a little sinking action. He throws it in that spot to these right-handers. He's going to be tough to get at. He'll hit you some ground balls to the other side. Change-up breaking ball. The appeal goes down to the first base umpire, Mark Johnson. He said he didn't go. 2-2.
Didn't go. Johnson didn't move a muscle.
Full count. Blue Jays scored 5 runs on 3 base hits, a couple of walks given by Mike Birkbeck. Pass ball, 2 runners advance, an error by Molitor. Also a play where he didn't get the lead runner at second or didn't think he could. So Flanagan walks his first Brewer. Leadoff hitter, Rob Deere. Bring up Glenn Braggs with the ball sharply to Liriano for a ground out in the first.
Tony, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Have you and Chevy signed up for the Ernie Witt Charity Golf Classic yet?
No, they're still trying to repair the course the last time I was there. I don't know about Tony, but the divots are just being replaced.
Not yet. I don't know if
Well,
I'm
make
in
sure
town.
you do. It's June the 9th.
Next Thursday, right?
Nobleton Lakes 5th annual. Ernie's already raised over $60,000. And it goes for the kidney dialysis camp in Dorset, Ontario. They expect to grab another $25,000 this year. And Chevy and Tony, they need some of your money too.
Okay, it's a good event and obviously a successful one again this year.
I can see how Ernie's raised that much money with a high-pressure salesman like Fergie backing him. Fly ball right side. The wind will blow it into the bullpen. Foul ball. So Deere's on first after a walk. Braggs with a 1-1 count. Wind not as brisk as it was just prior to the game when some showers were over the stadium. No batting practice.
Not exactly calm, but it's gone from gale force down to tolerable here at least, which is something at Exhibition Stadium.
Glenn Braggs was a pretty good project for hitting instructor Tony Muser. About the latter part of last season, he began to lay off pitches that were up in the strike zone and got the bat out so he wasn't getting jammed quite as much on inside pitches. From what I've seen, he looks like he loves to go down and get low pitches. Should be 2. Fernandez. Liriano. They get Braggs. Double play number 3 in the ball game for the Blue Jays. Swayam 5-4-3 in the second. Castillo 6-4-3 in the third. And now Braggs 6-4-3 in the fourth. 2 down.
First baseman number
All 3 were tailor-made for double plays, but you got to execute them well, and the Jays did in each instance.
When Flanagan first came up, Don, he was pretty much a fly ball pitcher because he had that riding fastball. He could pitch upstairs. And last season when he came over here after all the injuries to his knee, breaking ball, strike to Greg Brock, who doubled in the second. Al Widmar got him last year and said, look, you're maybe going to have to come up with a little sinker. And he picked it up in all but an instant. 2 strikes to Brock. Jays leading 5-1, top of the 4th. Dropped down, fouled out of play.
In every inning, Flanagan has gotten himself into some degree of difficulty, and each time to this point has pitched himself out like a veteran will.
Fastball got him looking. Flanagan is stuck with 3 consecutive breaking balls. Gets him with a called strike 3 fastball. 2 strikeouts now. Jays 5, Brewers 1. You're watching Labatt Blue Jays baseball right here on CTV. Well, John McLaren and Billy Smith give you an indication of what has happened to that nice hot weather around Toronto for the past few days, with their hands in their pockets, their dickies on, long sleeve sweatshirts. But they're enjoying a nice, comfortable 4-run lead. Braggs stationed perfectly for Liriano, not playing him very deeply, 1 out.
Well, he's almost fooled on it. Had to react in a hurry.
Well, you get fooled here because of the light standards. More in left than right, but even in right field, the outfielders have problems. Each team with 4 base hits, but Birkbeck had some control problems in the first and a little trouble with his defense.
The shortstop, number 1, Tony.
It is still not a real uncomfortable day when you compare what was around Major League Baseball in April and most of May with those severe winds and extreme cold weather.
Compared to yesterday here in Toronto, you go from 30 Celsius down to, I suppose, 14 or 15 right now, and that's a lot cooler.
Breaking ball misses too low. Fernandez is singled in the first, scored a run and grounded out. 5-1 Jays. One ball, 1 strike with 1 down on Tony Fernandez. A good thing to watch with Tony Fernandez is how relaxed his hands are on the bat. He doesn't strangle it, doesn't impede his bat speed. You grab that bat too tight and the hands and the forearms tighten up, and you lose bat speed. You're just like Rod Cruz, so relaxed. And when he goes after the pitch, it's like lightning, like a cobra striking. He pops this one up. Fastball got in. Robin Yount should have it for out number 2. He does. I want to remind you, the Labatt's player of the game for the Toronto Blue Jays will receive the new Canon Sure Shot Multi-Telly with the auto-retractable wide and tele autofocus lens. This fully automatic camera, loaded with extras, is available now. The Canon Sure Shot Multi-Telly. Like a little cuckoo bird. Cuckoo. Fouled off by Mosby. They're jumping on a lot of first pitches now off Mike Birkbeck, who's begun to throw strikes. Mosby walked. Fouled out. He scored a run. Change up. Look out. Somehow, Mike Birkbeck got out of the way. A vicious line drive that flipped him. Wow, he's a lucky young man. The glove and hand looked like it went right in front of his face, and he just flipped on his backside. It's a changeup. Down out over the plate. Oh, he was a lucky young man right there. There was no way. Here it is from another angle. Change up, down. Ball looked like it got a little piece of his glove, but that was heading right for his face.
Like a magnet.
Lloyd's on with 2 outs. That'll scare you.
It did scare him, I'm sure.
Woo. Leiter got it yesterday. Steve Steele's now with the Yankees. Got his cheekbone crushed beginning of last season up at Seattle. Everybody remembers Herb Score, of course, back in 1958, I believe it was. All but ruined his career. 5-1 Toronto in the 4th inning. Mulnix, single homer run, scored, walked in the 2nd. Lloyd may be on the move. He's holding. A little low. I would think that with 2 outs, Mosby has the green light. If he feels he can make it, he'll go to get in scoring position. So John McLaren relaying Jimmy Williams' sign. Look at Molitor. He's looking over to see if he can pick something up. The wheels are turning on the other side of the diamond, perhaps, where Trebelhorn might be giving a pitch out sign or telling his pitcher Birkbeck to throw over a couple of times, step off, see if they can read Mosby. He's not going. 2-0, Birkbeck. Worried more about Mosby than he is about Mulnix. That's Larry Haney, Tony Muser to the right of your screen, and Tom Trebelhorn. Second full year as the Brewers manager. He's a great motivator, school teacher in the offseason. 2-0. 3 balls, no strikes to Rance Mulnix. And even with George Bell up next, with that wind blowing out pretty briskly to right field, and a veteran hitter like Mulnix, there's George on deck. The Brewers may give Mulnix the green light. Pick your pitch if you like it, wail away. 3-1, taken all the way. In the first inning, with a 3-1 count on Mulnix, Mosby and Fernandez were on the move. Three and one, 2 down. He's going. Should be out of play over the Blue Jays bullpen. It is. The count will run full.
It's hard to believe, Tony, that over 50 games have slipped by now, the Toronto Blue Jays, and in the case of many, that's a correct term, slipped by them. They're 22 and 29. At this time last year, after 51 games, they were 31 and 20 in second place, a game and a half out. Today, they stand at the moment 11 and a half back of the Yankees.
Well, everybody's looking for answers. You know, what's wrong with this team? Is it injuries, youth, lack of desire, turnover turmoil, front office? You know, maybe this 24-man roster in over 162 games just isn't good enough to win it this year. You don't know. They have a chance to maybe climb up to second place, but they'd have to have a complete collapse by a lot of teams for them to win their division this year.
Well, there's a team last year certainly came within an inch of winning enough games to claim the division. That same talent should be good enough to do it again this year. That's the question most people are asking. Why not?
With Greg Brock playing way behind Mosby at first, 3 and 2 outs. Mosby's been alerted. Watch a trick play. Billy Smith says, I'll watch the first baseman. Now Brock sneaking up. He's going. Ground ball. Brock playing back in that count situation. 2 outs. Easy ground ball out. So Birkbeck pitches out of it after a single to Mosby that almost got him after 4. The score will stay. The Toronto Blue Jays 5, Milwaukee Brewers 1. You're watching the back. Blue Jays baseball on CTV.
077.
Well, our Xerox opinion poll, should Billy Martin be suspended for throwing dirt at the umpire? Not a rousing number of votes, but pretty overwhelmingly in favor of it. I guess the big question is how long will he be suspended?
Well, that's it. How do you measure it? Pete Rose jostling an umpire. He goes for 30 days. Guerrero tosses a bat. He goes for 4. Of course, Martin's previous record could be a factor here. I guess, did you call that incident like the movie Dirty Dancing? Umpire trying to dance out of the way.
Joey Meyer, DHing, hitting in the 7th spot. Flanagan with a 4-run lead. Goes the opposite way on a pitch out over the plate. So the Brewers have the first hitter on in the 5th.
The catcher, number 21, Bill Schroeder.
So with Flanagan having some good off-speed stuff, a good curveball, and this is a changeup. Brewers right-handers apparently saying we better take him the opposite way. We've already hit 3 double plays. Now a double play candidate, Bill Schroeder. He singled in the 2nd. For a strike. That was close, if not the new strike zone pitch. A little bit above the bell, it appeared. John Shulock gives it to Mike Flanagan. Breaking ball too far inside, 1-1. Freddie McGriff at first base with Joey Meyer at first, not a very fast runner, playing behind him. He's not going to hold him on with no speed at first or at the plate, and a 4-run lead. Curveball strike. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
And Schroeder, who coming in at 125 is certainly struggling now, had the biggest batting average increase of any player in the majors last year. He jumped at 120 points above 86 with 332 average last season.
He was a catcher. I believe the Blue Jays were interested during the offseason. Curveball, he got a little piece of it. That'll stay at 1 and 2. The Blue Jays had interest in Jody Davis. There was talk when Alex Trevino got released. Houston's picked him up. They might have been interested in him. And really, with the spring that Pat Borders have, and he continues to have an outstanding start, he didn't need a right-handed catcher after all. And he keeps improving. Fouled off out of play. Flanagan tried to sneak a fastball by him up and in, that 4-seam fastball.
And Schroeder planting a seed that may grow in the future, has earned some off-season money as a color commentator on local college basketball over the winter months.
Oh, they're all going to school. Rick Cerrone was going to broadcast school before Red Sox picked him up. Just by Tony Fernandez, within a foot or so of another ground ball double play, but the Brewers have nobody out and 2 men out for Dale Swaim, who drove in over 90 runs last year for this team out of the 9 slot.
95 of them.
He got a ground ball, but it found a hole. Swaim grounded into a double play in the second. Ernie Witt, just a little reminder to Flanagan, yes, you are still throwing the ball well. Yeah, the ball did have good sinking action, but it happened to find a hole on the artificial surface. Sinker ball strike. Brewers had 2 men out in the first with 1 out. 2 men out in the second with 1 out. Scored a run. Then a double play. The leadoff hitter on the third didn't score. Fourth didn't score. First 2 on in the fifth. Fouled out of play. 2 strikes. Tom Filer, a former Blue Jay, a former Cub, was named Pitcher of the Week in the American League. Shut out Detroit 7-0. He had the Tommy John operation, the Gary Lavelle operation, the tendon transplant in his right elbow.
Always a great talent while with the Jays, but so injury prone.
Oh, breaking ball that had Swaim fooled badly. He couldn't pull the trigger, but it was too low.
Swaim, a switch hitter, gets better from the left side of the plate than this side, where he's forced to hit with Flanagan pitching tonight.
Oh, great changeup. Had Dale Swaim completely fooled. He was way out in front. Flanagan set him up with a great curveball that just missed, pitched before, and then he takes an awful lot off the curveball. Perhaps that's a little bit of the help that Galen Cisco's been able to give him. Galen looking at the pitching charts and looking at tapes, finding out Flanagan's curveball was no longer in his repertoire of pitches. So he may have said, look, you want it to break, take something off it. Give that rotation on the curveball. With the curveball, spend a little more time to bite. We had a good off-speed curveball today. 1 out, 2 on. Curveball missed outside.
You're looking at a guy, a monitor, who was the first draft pick of 1977, and how well, indeed, he has panned out for the Milwaukee Brewers. The Blue Jays drafting 25th, in case you missed it, came up with the third baseman, Ed Sprague, from Stanford University.
McGriff will go to Fernandez. They won't get 2. Tony looks for the lead runner in case he rounded the bag too far. But he didn't. So there are 2 outs. Flanagan trying to pitch out of trouble. First 2 runners out with base hit. Strikes out Swaim. Gets Molitor on a 3-6. Jimmy Williams has Dwayne Ward loosening up. The event that Flanagan stays in trouble this inning. Juan Castillo. Single, stolen base, grounded into a double play. a strike.
By the way, the first player chosen in today's draft, #1 overall by San Diego, right-handed pitcher Andy Menace, the University of Evansville, Indiana.
Don Mattingly's hometown. Breaking ball, strike 2. Now the player that the Blue Jays drafted out of high school, Jim Abbott, left-handed pitcher, a great story. Born, not a right hand. Drafted very high for the California Angels out of Michigan University.
Drafted 8th by them, yeah. Will he sign this time? That's the question.
Well, I'm sure he, like that Sprague, told Fergie Albert, would like to be a part of the U.S. Olympic team.
And in the case of Sprague, the College World Series coming up in the next month or so.
Jim Abbott's team, Michigan, was eliminated. I believe he pitched and had a little control problem. Michigan lost 8-3. They're gone. Sprague, I believe Stanford won the Eastern Finals, so they'll move on.
Yep, they won the Northeast Regionals. They're in the College World Series in Omaha.
2-2, 2 outs, 2 men on.
Ooh.
He shatters the bat. Did it get Flanagan? What a play by Nelson Liriano. He saved a run for Flanagan with outstanding raise to his left. Liriano made an excellent play going to his right to help Dave Steve out yesterday. Watch part of the bat. Flanagan jumps out of the way. Nelson Liriano on an outstanding play for the second time helps retire his fellow countryman Juan Castillo. So, bottom of the 5th, that's where we'll go to. Blue Jays 5, Brewers 1. You're watching Labatt Blue Jays baseball on CTV. On what has become almost a fall-like day here at Exhibition Stadium. Sun just about set now. George Bell rifles the first pitch from Birkbeck into the left field corner. He will have at least a double. He'll hold right there. So Bell, another thing that Cito Gasp has asked him to do is not take so many first pitches. Felt he was getting behind in the count. He just lashed out at a breaking ball for a double. Now he's got lightning bat speed, doesn't he?
He really does.
You could see Mahler couldn't even move.
2 for 3 on the night now.
He had 3 base hits yesterday, so the offense appears to be in gear.
First baseman, number 19, Brett.
And it showed flashes of getting into gear in Texas when they scored 9 times in 1 inning. 9 runs they didn't need in a 13-2 romp. And they fell apart again offensively. But here, 2 nights in a row, the bats have been booming for the Blue Jays.
Freddie McGriff took a walk in the 5-run first for the Blue Jays. He'd be trying to get the ball to the right side, pull it. Not give himself up. That's, to me, poor terminology. They say, give yourself up. I believe a guy ought to go up there, right or left-handed with a man on second, no outs, try and get a base hit to the right side. Don't give yourself too easily.
That's a run again for the cold spring you talked about earlier, Tony. The Blue Jays now leaving town tonight. It's supposed to warm up here and be a very nice weekend while they're away. They're going to Boston. It may not get out of the mid-60s. It's going to be very cool in the 50s at night at Fenway Park. So this cold weather we have tonight is moving in there.
Fred McGriff ahead in the count, 2 balls and a strike. The man on second base and the Jays leading by 4 runs. Fouled out of play, 2-2. Paul Mirabella, who was up in that 5-run first, up again now in the 5th.
And Birkbeck, who looked like he was heading for the showers in the first inning, is still with us here in the 5th.
Freddie out on strikes. He didn't believe the call.
Third baseman, number 17, Kelly Gruber.
Well, Mike Riley's the third base umpire, and I think Shulock called that on his own. I don't think he even got help from the third base umpire, Riley. He just felt that the ball either had the strike zone or Freddie went too far. Don't know which.
Any advantage is the first strikeout for Birkbeck.
Now it's Kelly Gruber. Drove in a run in the first with a ground ball out to third. Singled in the third and stole a base. A little cut fastball for a strike. much more relaxed in all areas of play, Kelly Gruber. Confidence level very high with the glove, with the throwing arm. You can see Birkbeck when he tucked his elbow in, reminding himself to get on top of the breaking ball. He pushed that one.
Gruber gives the Jays 4 300-plus hitters in a row for opposition pitchers to deal with.
Off-speed breaking ball to Kelly. 1 and 2.
Sorry.
Excuse me, Dan.
The opening day was his destiny. Fate turned in his favor. When Mullenix went down with an injury, suddenly he went to third base and has remained there with Rance coming back as a DH.
Well, the 301 is obviously a big plus, but you look at the extra base hits, 13 doubles, 5 home runs, but especially those 31 RBIs. And you're looking at the possibility if the Kelly Gruber stays hot and the people ahead of him get on base, that he could head for a 90 to 100 RBI season if he stays injury-free. One hopper, they've got him hung up.
Birkbeck says, I got him, almost did it alone.
Exactly what a pitcher should do. George Bell, not very good base running. He gets hung up. He was always in scoring position. Too many times the pitcher will throw the ball either to the third baseman or the man at second. He gets the ball in his bare hand, runs right at him, makes George Bell commit. If he throws this ball to third base right away, you might have a couple throws and the runner might have enough time to hit the ball and end up on second base. So George gets hung out to dry.
And he's checking the arm there on that head first slide as he bounced into second base.
Now with 2 outs, a left-handed hitter up, Ernie Witt. Got an RBI on the ground out. Base hit right field. Kelly won't have a chance to steal. Braggs throws pretty well. Here comes his throw. Kelly Gruber is safe. Kelly on a ball fairly sharply hit on the artificial surface. Got a great jump, made a good quick turn. Didn't waste any ground, goes first and third.
Has good hustle against a decent arm, as you talked about, from Braggs, as Ernie Witt finally has one drop in. He has hit so many line drives per outs. This one eludes the defense.
I'll tell you, you're looking at a pretty complete athlete in Kelly Gruber. You talked about his batting average. You brought that up down over 300. Talked about his throwing arm, his quickness, his speed. And he went first to third in a hurry on a pretty good throwing arm. Now it's Jesse Barfield.
Well, Gruber is developing to the athlete they always thought he could be when they gambled on him. Got him from Cleveland. Remember, he was one of those they had to keep for a full season for fear of losing him. Put in that time, developed him, and here he is.
Breaking ball, 1-1 to Jesse Barfield. Five to 1 Blue Jays. Every so often you see that play work. Pitcher has to do on that. You can balk the third on that play. If you don't make an attempt to throw, you don't have to. And then you've got to disengage the rubber before you make the fake throw to first base.
Last night
call a ball.
Might have been better because it was a blue moon then.
Yeah.
You'll see it once in, one of those.
There's some pitchers now have been stepping off thinking the first, and they've caught a couple runners off third. 2-2 to Barfield. Jesse a little over anxious. Swung a bad pitch to get himself out in the third. Just went after a bad sailing fastball.